honest, don't you, Georgie? Oh, of course you do. And there's cotton candy and rides and all sorts of surprises down here. And balloons, too. All colors.
Do they float?
Oh, yes. They float, Georgie. They float. And when you're down here with me, you float too!
Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duh.
And this week, why haven't y'all told me happy birthday yet?
Oh,
Happy
birthday! Happy birthday, Sydney!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Birthday!
We mentioned this last week that you cry if you hear the happy birthday song, but what about the other version that's not the original one? The like happy birthday to
No.
ya. Are you gonna cry
Yeah.
from that?
No.
Okay, all right.
None
Well,
of
sorry,
them.
I even started it right then.
The only
I thought
one that
that
I
one's
think,
more jazzy and fun.
the only one that I will deem acceptable, but you can't sing it at me, you have to sing it with me, and we must be dancing on a bar, is Go Shawty, it's your birthday. We're gonna
Party like
it's
it's
your
your
birthday.
All right.
Or
Good
if
to
you're
know.
a bad bitch and it's your birthday.
Okay.
That's
All right.
the
All right.
other
All right. I'm
version.
taking notes. Okay. So it's Sydney's birthday, and that means we're doing a birthday episode for Sydney.
It's not my
Sydney.
actual birthday. It's
Okay,
just my
well-
Oh, well,
birthday
excuse us for
episode.
the confusion. There's so much birthday emphasis here.
It is the
Birthday episode. Yeah.
It's the birthday episode, which is kicking off Sydneypalooza.
It's true. It's true.
Sydneypalooza begins
Day one.
now.
Now, right now, this very moment, come on this journey with us.
The It 1990 version, which is a beloved film from Sydney's childhood. I had not seen it. I don't think Monica has seen it.
I'd seen
Sydney,
it.
do you want to? Oh, you had?
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
Really? I think Monica has seen it.
Oh yeah. I love this shit.
Yeah.
It's great. It is 3 hours and
Wild.
12 minutes long though.
It is. It is. And honestly, it's probably about 4 minutes long, 4 hours long if you factor in all of the original commercials, which
Oh my
you
God.
can still clock where the commercials are placed when you watch this movie, because it was a mini like TV series.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it was a movie. So like,
That's
it was
3
only
hours
2
long.
episodes.
Here's the thing. We did have much debate before we set this for sure on the schedule about whether this needed to be 2 episodes because of its length, because of the fact that it was technically 2 movies on TV. Sydney made very clear that it is 1 movie actually and 1 movie only. And I will say,
Yes.
when I watched it on Hulu, I didn't know where the break in between the
Me
movies was.
neither. When
So
was
that
it?
Actually,
Because when
is
was there a
fascinating
good
to me.
cliffhanger?
Yeah.
I was
like,
trying
when
to
would the
figure
first
that out.
left off.
Okay. When we get to the point, I will tell you
You'll let us
where the
know?
cliffhanger
Okay.
is.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, a cliffhanger.
So, for anybody who actually hasn't seen this movie, it came out in 1999, which makes it almost
1990.
1990. I am just bad with numbers.
Do you want to say that sentence again? Since
No.
you were so Oh, okay.
No.
It's her birthday episode, folks.
It's
she
my
doesn't
birthday.
have to.
Like, bring it on.
It's my
I'm bad
birthday,
with
so
numbers.
you know I'm gonna misremember dates. It's fine.
Here's the thing. You should know that by now if you're
Sure.
listening to any one of our previous episodes.
We can be relied upon for the truth, for factual information, for saying anything correctly. We just vibe.
Thank God this came out in 1990 though, so it had the chance to influence Sydney's entire childhood. You know what I mean?
It did.
No, from day one.
1999, it would have been too late. Too late to deeply ingrain itself into her soul, you know?
This movie, okay. So if you haven't seen this movie, I'm going to read you the IMDb summary of it, because if I actually tried to summarize it, I would go on a tangent and be like, well,
That would be
actually,
the
it's
whole-
It'll be
not
the whole
this.
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah. So I am going to just read a scripted
Okay.
summary and then just have
Amazing.
Chelsea look at me while I do it. In 1960, 7 preteen outcasts fight an evil demon who poses as a child-killing clown. 30 years later, they reunite to stop the demon once and for all when it returns to their hometown. Dun, dun, dun.
Spooky.
It's pretty succinct. It's pretty succinct.
Honestly,
Couldn't have said it better myself.
That is a good description because sometimes IMBD, is that it? I don't know.
So close.
IMDb.
Damn it.
Bro, who knows? It's your birthday, so we're gonna get acronyms wrong.
Here's the thing.
It's perfect.
I'm completely sober, so this is just who I am, guys.
And we love you.
Thank you. I think this movie was my first introduction to Tim Curry.
Oh,
What a great
interesting.
place to
Like,
start.
I'm definitely sure I saw this before because I didn't see Rocky Horror until I was like 12 or 13.
Okay.
And then I didn't see Clue until I was like 19, which is a shame. I should have watched Clue at a way younger age than
Yeah, you're delayed on
Oh,
Clue.
agreed. I didn't see Clue until this year. My life didn't start until
That's
this
right.
year.
You didn't
Yeah.
see it until we watched it. Oh my god,
My
we gotta
whole
do
life
that at
was
some point.
trash up until this year. And this year fucking sucked, except for that, I guess. Damn.
Well, and also
It's
this
hard
whole-
to peak late in life.
This whole podcast was great, right?
Yeah, Monica. Our whole
Right?
podcast.
You love everything about this podcast?
Yes.
So
What
just
is it-
watching
what?
Clue was the only good thing and
Was
everything
just
else
the
was
only
good.
good
bad.
Fuck you guys. Yeah, I've hated every moment of this with you guys, actually. I thought I'd tell you now on Sydney's birthday.
Stop fighting. It's my birthday.
Kidding. But anyway, okay, that must be so hard though to like live your whole life or your first introduction to Tim Curry. You don't know that he's sexy. Like that
Okay.
sucks.
That's true. That is a struggle.
That's hard. I mean, oh no, you're gonna say something upsetting.
I don't know. Pennywise is like very charming in a weird way. Like, I don't know.
Says I'm vomiting, but I am dressed as him right now. Okay. Well,
Yeah, but
no,
you look
I
cute.
wasn't about
So
to
does
do that.
he.
I wasn't about to do the mouth thing. Which the mouth thing is only from the new ones. And I wasn't
Should've
about to
done
do
the
the red
eyebrows, too.
nose. Yeah, I wasn't about to do the eyebrows. I've never done the glue down eyebrow things where you white out your eyebrows and do little ones over it. I'm not there in my makeup journey yet, but Tim Curry was. And God, I fucking love the costuming for him. His fucking huge ass forehead, absolutely large, very exciting. His nose, very beautiful, round, voluptuous nose. And mostly what I love the most about his makeup was how his eyes were like yellow and bloodshot as fuck the entire time, and his teeth were super yellow and gross too in comparison to like the white like makeup he had on his face. So fucking unsettling to look at him, even when he's giving you a balloon, little Georgie. Like, you should not trust this man. Why do
Yeah, I
kids
mean,
like clowns?
The thing about the makeup that's interesting to me is this was like a pared down look from what they had originally planned. They originally wanted to do like a lot more prosthetics and stuff like that to really be scary. But Tim Curry had just done a very prosthetic heavy role in Darkness in Legend.
Ooh, I've
And
never
he
seen
spent
that.
so long, I know I'd never heard of it, 1985. But he spent so long in the makeup chair getting ready to film things in that movie that he was like, I simply cannot do it again. I beg of you. Like, he almost didn't take the role because he didn't want to do something that was so prosthetic heavy, but they were able to compromise a little bit. And instead we get the very scary Tim Curry that we see in this film, where he just has an enormous forehead at all times, but then sometimes also has spiky, sharp teeth. And that's very scary.
And
I
also
like those.
sometimes his eyes are baby blue, you know?
And also sometimes he's an old lady, you know? So
And also sometimes
what?
he is a werewolf.
And also sometimes he's Ben's dad who died in the war. So Ben's dad who died in the war was hot. Just saying.
Oh yeah, super
for
hot.
sure.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about this movie. It was all over the place in terms of the timeline. I was reading about the movie, and apparently in the books they really have like the past timeline and the present timeline kind of unfolding concurrently, and it switches between the two. And then in this adaptation, like obviously there are plenty of flashbacks and flash forwards, I guess, arguably throughout. But they really kind of separate it, like the remake, into like the kids movie first and the adult movie second, which makes sense for a 2-episode miniseries. You know what I mean? Like you got to give them something in the first half. It can't all be set up. But I also think it was a little strange to have it be episodic when you're watching it in like one full sit down movie like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was something that I noticed. So I think I'm the only one out of the three of us who's seen this. It had seen this it previously and has also seen both of the new It's that came out in the last 5 years or whatever the hell. And so watching this again made me appreciate all the things they tried to do in the new ones, because there are a lot more homages than I realized. Like, for example, the casting, like the way these kids that they cast for the new ones look, they're like, they look so much like the original cast. It's fucking crazy. Not every single one of them, but like, I think the Stan in particular, just like the ways his eyes are set in his face, looks exactly like that new kid that they chose. Also, Jessica Chastain, that's I think she's the older
Beverly. Yeah.
Beverly. Yeah, she looks so much like the original Beverly. So that's something I appreciated. But I don't know. I think that this is so much more enmeshed, like timeline wise, like because it's like everyone, basically the structure is that everyone gets their phone call from Mike Hanlon reminding them of like their past that they've forgotten and that they need to come back because it is back. The monster is back. And then like everyone, like once they get that phone call, has their flashback to what happened to them. So that's how it's like way more enmeshed. And like I liked that, but at the same time, like I don't know. I kind of liked it split up too, because it's like the pacing is more, you can really like learn about the characters more, like how they were as a kid, and then understand how they're different as adults now when it's separated. But I mean, this is definitely truer to the book, I guess. So I'll allow it.
One thing that's like really interesting with like you can kind of see it when you rewatch it, like again, where the commercials were. But if it's like a 2-hour long like TV movie, I guess, like episode, then you're gonna get like 7 commercial breaks.
Did you read
during
this in articles,
that?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Oh, girly girl.
And so like how they introduce, there's 7 losers, lucky 7, and so how they kind of introduce everybody is like they get their own commercial break, and so they're really building like the kids like character world and that backstory. And then in the second half it's more like vague childhood flashbacks mixed in with like actions on how to defeat it. But the kids had so much better, I guess, chemistry, and like they were so much more compelling and more fun to watch than the adults were. And I think a lot of that was the acting and the casting, because like I don't know. I was a little put off that like John Ritter,
but also John Ritter. Have you considered?
I know, in a beard.
Oh my god, he looks so good.
Like a sexy little man whom I love.
That little sexy cowboy outfit, like I was freaking out.
Me.
Adam was sitting next to me and I was like, why don't you wear that? I literally said, do you think my cowboy boots would fit you? Because like, I'm going to put him in that outfit.
Okay. I'm glad you had that reaction, because I immediately looked at Jesse and I was like, you should wear something like this. And he was like, only for special occasions. And I'm like, Tuesdays are a special occasion.
Tuesdays are special.
Date nights
Birthdays are special.
Birthdays are very special.
But yeah, it's really interesting that you say that because when Monica was talking, I was thinking about what you were saying with the 7-act structure for a 2-hour show with those built-in commercial breaks. And I have a guess at what the cliffhanger may have been now between the first episode and the second episode. But I will say that I do think you're right. I think probably the same article where they really talked about the kids were cast based on the strength of their auditions for the roles, and the adults were cast without auditions at all, pretty much based on the fact that they were known names already. And so they weren't necessarily cast for a role that would have suited them best, or they weren't necessarily cast in something that was like written to their strengths or whatever. They were just like, John Ritter is here because he's John Ritter and we love him. You know what I mean? Which I will say,
I had no problems with John Ritter.
Oh, I was thrilled to see John Ritter here, and I'm thrilled to see Tim Reid here. And then I frankly wasn't familiar with really any of the other adults.
Okay. Well, you have Bill is John Boy Walton, and then, which neither of y'all know the Waltons, but I made a big deal about this before.
Oh,
and then he's from like a 70s like sitcom, and then his wife is Juliet.
Oh, Olivia Hussey. Yes, I knew her
from our queen from Black Christmas 1994.
Yes.
1970.
Oh my God! Wow, I did not put that together at all. I did not put that together at all. I was like, I love this woman and she's hot in a way that I recognize her. And I was like, oh, it's just because I've seen this before. No, it's because
it's her
life
Baby
in
Jess.
Black Christmas. Oh man. Oh, I can't wait till we talk about her part of the movie. But okay, can I also just say that I think that the guy, Dennis Christopher, who played Eddie, is like the cutest man I've ever seen in my life. He's so cute. He's so adorable with his little flippy hair. I love
Eddie
him.
is one of my favorite characters.
Me too. And Eddie gets the worst life of ever. Arguably the worst life besides Mike's life. Like his life fucking sucks.
Bev's also sucks.
Bev sucks too. Yeah.
Bill seems to be doing
but
great.
At least,
Bill's thriving or whatever.
Bill's thriving.
Oh, the ponytail, you know he's having a bad time.
No, yeah. I was going to say Bill's thriving except for like then he turns around and you see that rat growing out the back of his neck. Oh.
One of my research brought me to an article specifically about how the ponytail is bad. And it's important and I will be including it in our episode notes.
It's so bad.
But same article,
it's distracting from the plot of the film.
Yes. That same article though brought me to another article about another great moment in the film, and it made me realize also that adult Stan is played by Veda Sultanfuss's uncle from My Girl, which means nothing to Monica because she hasn't seen My Girl.
Of course I've seen My Girl.
One of you hadn't seen My Girl. I just assumed it was Monica. Oh, it's Sydney. I apologize to Monica formally on this podcast.
No. My Girl gave me my probably, but that was actually probably my first existential crisis, not the Twilight Zone existential crisis that I have. That My Girl fucked me up so bad I cried for like weeks. And then during the pandemic, we had a video chat, us three, with some of our other friends where we drank a bunch of champagne and dressed in Renaissance fair clothing. And then I decided to watch My Girl after that while drunk and hysterically cried for like 5 hours.
Here's the thing.
I've seen My Girl. It's
My
like
Girl's going on
a low point of the pandemic.
It's going on the 5th Tuesday list because in its own way it is a horror movie. And say no more. And Sydney, I don't know what you know, but erase it from your brain.
I know nothing about it. So.
Don't look into it.
Erase even
I'm
what we've
try
said just
to
now
make
from your brain.
So we don't do it as a 5th Tuesday, so you never have to feel this pain.
I am going to inflict it upon her. I'm so sorry. Happy birthday. But anyway, yeah. I mean, the thing about this movie is also that in terms of the two halves of it, the second half was the whole script was written by I think Lawrence Cohen is his name, and then a bunch of it got rewritten by the director. The second half essentially got entirely rewritten by the director because it wasn't very faithful to the book at all. And there was like a whole different ending essentially, other than the one that we saw on screen. But that is also to say that it was rewritten by a director, not a writer. And I think some of that is clear in the dialogue. Like he may
yeah.
have had good story ideas, but the script in terms of the script of it all, perhaps wasn't as strong as the first half. Some people have suggested. And no one has like publicly commented on it. Like the original script writer hasn't come out and been like, here was my original script. So like no one can really see and compare and contrast, but a lot of
Wonder
people
what they
really
changed.
say the strength of the first half like hugely outweighs the strength of the second half of this movie. But also I think that 7-act structure, just based on like a 2-hour movie with commercial breaks and having 7 characters and splitting it up the way that they did with like the 7 reintroductions, I think giving it that structure works really well in
Mhm.
terms of making a TV movie. You know what I mean? And I almost wish I had seen this movie on TV with commercial breaks a week apart from itself so that I could like really see it in the medium it was supposed to be seen in, because I think that would add to it. I think when you're watching it all in one block, it almost takes away from it a little bit because it
yeah.
doesn't have that same like rhythm that it would naturally have otherwise.
And there's not built-in bathroom breaks. Like there were commercials because yeah, I got a little lost in the middle of this one too. I got really hungry. I hadn't had enough coffee. I watched
took
this
a
in the
nap.
morning.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That said, John Ritter is so sexy. You know what I mean?
So
And
sexy.
I
That
will
was
only say that
invigorating.
is poorly cast because he's supposed to be like the fat kid, and I know he's supposed to grow up and be handsome, but even the younger fat kid is so adorable.
The child was poor.
younger-
It just, I
He's
was
so cute.
irate watching this movie because I was like, this child is a cute child. This child, like, he's got swagger. He like looks cute. Like, if I was a
His
little girl, I would have been like, oh my God, this guy is cool. Like, yeah, it was, that was so annoying. And everyone's calling him like Porky and all this horrible shit. And I was like, this, like, get creative, people, with your insults. Oh my God. He had the best hair though.
I know.
He's a terrible person, but he has some deep-seated issues, but he's got that swirly hair that I really like and would like to see come back as a trend in 2021.
Yeah, I think greaser hair
2022,
should
even now,
definitely
wait.
be making a comeback.
Yeah, but like, my God, what is wrong with him? What is wrong with Henry Bowers? He literally is murderous immediately. He meets this child and he meets Ben and he's like, fuck you. I'm going to cut your stomach open. What the fuck? What
Well,
the hell?
Doesn't he like in the books at least like carve something on his chest? Am I just like
There's
making
some
that up?
like actual cutting that happens at least in the second, in the new versions of the movies. There is a slight cut that is made into his tummy. I'm pretty sure it's been a minute since I've seen them, so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But yeah, like very, very graphic, just very fucked up. I really wish I had read the book of this first, but I know about some things that happen in the book that I never want to perceive, and so I don't know if I can do it.
Tried reading this book. I've tried reading this book
Chelsea.
so many times, and I just like I can't get past like a certain point where
I'm gonna
like
try it.
I'm like, okay, I'm reading this, like, and then I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. So I've never made it past, I think, like the 3rd chapter of this book.
I think I'll be
I can't bring myself to do it.
I think I'll be prepared for this one more because I've now read 2 Stephen King books, and one of them was Dreamcatcher. And Dreamcatcher, one is 99% about farts, just off the bat.
Yes.
And
I have heard that from you, and that felt very relevant watching this movie all about burps.
Oh yeah, this movie was all about burps. You're right. Wow, Stephen King. What's going on? Also, it was funny because like I was like, did he think I am Bill and Bill is me and that's who this character is? I was just wondering because he was a horror writer. I was just like, is that you, Stephen King? Did you have a ponytail at that time?
I Googled, did he have a ponytail?
Did he?
Didn't say, but that's how I found the Bill's Bad Ponytail article.
He must have had a ponytail.
It was like what did he do to deserve this treatment? Why did this happen to him? What
Because
sins
he's
is he
literally
paying for?
1990s Stephen King. Like there he had to have had a ponytail. I will find a picture. There's no way he didn't have a ponytail. But yeah, like that movie is also set about people who were like a group of boys who were friends and grew up in Derry, so in the same town, and it even mentions Pennywise very quickly in the movie or in the book, excuse me. But it also does the same thing where it's like present time, adult people, flashback to children time, all the time, back and forth all the time. So I feel like maybe I'd be like more used to that structure. But I like read this part of the research I did for Evil Dead was that article about how Stephen King like helped make Evil Dead happen and get it into distribution. And part of that like roasted Stephen King for his endings to books.
Sure.
And so like maybe that's another reason why the second half of this is a little bit funky, because it just kind of gets a little wild towards the end.
The ending is bad.
The ending is bad, you know? The ending is not my fave. But another thing that's not my fave that's in the book, and I'm just gonna say it, and I never knew about this, but Adam decided to read the plot synopsis of the book instead, and it's that there's an orgy.
Yes, and I have so many questions, and
With children. It's a child orgy.
When they're children?
It's when they're children.
Yeah, it's like
my
when they're
God.
children.
It's
Okay,
when
here's the
they're
thing.
children.
I knew that scene existed. I did not know it was when they were children. I watched this movie being like, I know it's not in this movie, but I wonder where it would have gone. And spoilers for the end, right before the final face off, essentially, Eddie is like, hold on, I have to tell you guys something. I'm a virgin, which like nothing wrong with that, you know?
No, yeah. I just
personally, I don't know that he is interested in sex at all. And that's something I would like to discuss for his character later on. But I thought like maybe this is the moment. Like maybe he reveals he's a virgin and then they're like, let's all
and then
fuck
Bev's like, I'll
just,
fuck you.
Yeah, just so you can say you fucked before you die, and we'll just do an orgy right here. And well, if you're worried about that, bestie, if you felt that was something you needed to confess, like we'll take care of it. The five of us down here, we're also close. We all love each other. Bev specifically at one point is like, that was the day I fell in love with all of you. So like, you know what I mean? I was prepared for that. But apparently in the books he's married. And in the reboot he's married. He's not a virgin who lives with his mom.
No.
So I
Thank
guess
God they gave him a little bit of a better life. Well, yeah.
Right.
Also, now
they
you
were
know that
children.
absolutely bizarre part of
God.
the film where he's like, it's the last scene before I die. Spoiler alert, he dies. It's the last scene before I die, and I'd seen it before, so I knew he was gonna die. And he's like, by the way, I'm a virgin. And so I'm like, they're telling you this, so when he dies, it's more sad. But isn't it so weird that they just made that up and it's not in the book? Isn't that so weird? Like, what an interesting thing to add. Just be like, you guys, there's like he's like a slow motion bullet is heading towards him essentially, and he's like, just so you know, I'm a virgin, and then he dies.
He's like, I have to confess that I have lied when I said I was in a relationship, which is not something that we ever even like see him say on screen. Apparently he's just been like telling them this off screen.
Yeah. Oh, how strange. But then I was like, he's so cute. And I was like, he's being so vulnerable with his swoopy hair.
Glasses.
Glasses. Poor guy's got Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Proxy.
Oh no.
Yeah,
he's just
he's
had
got
a
a-
terrible life his whole
Mhm.
life. It's been really bad the whole time.
Mhm.
Oh man, it's just really awful.
Okay,
but
I do have a
knowing
question actually.
Oh, okay. Yes.
The question is unrelated to what we were just talking about, other than Eddie has a bad life. If you would like to continue with your point.
Okay, it is related. So I'll just say it really quick. It does make a lot more sense the way that Beverly acts with every single person in the entire cast when you know they all fucked as children, you know?
Yes, she did greet more than one of them with an on the mouth kiss.
Like an open mouth kiss.
I
Like
mean,
she
you gotta kiss
wakes
the
up.
homies.
Who
So
is it that
True.
is holding her when she wakes up from fainting?
It's Eddie, I think, or Richie, maybe.
Yeah,
I think it's
it's
Richie.
It's Richie.
Oh, it's Richie.
And she just wakes up and she's just like, like immediately. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. I
Yeah,
was
she
like,
kissed Richie on the mouth, and then when she kissed Bill, it was like a full smooch, not just a peck. Richie got a peck. Bill got a smooch.
Yeah.
And it just continued from there is the thing. But you're right. It makes a lot more sense knowing that they all fucked, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
my
who
God.
doesn't like to be a hot girl in a group of guys and you know that they're all like, damn, she do be fine. And then you walk away from them though. That's the part where you win is you walk away and you're like, haha, bye. But no, they had a child orgy instead. And that's a choice that they had. And I'm glad for them, I guess, if it was all consensual. And I don't know if I'll ever read it and find out. But anyway, what were you going to say that has something that's not about a child orgy? I don't know. We could switch off this subject now.
Move away from the child orgies of it all.
Yeah.
What I would like to ask instead is like, why these kids? You know what I mean? Everybody else seems to get gobbled up so quickly, whereas with these kids, Pennywise the clown or it or whatever you want to call it really seems to revel in stoking their fear. And I know that part of it is obviously they have their little friendship circle of protection or whatever. Being with their friends makes them brave. Safety in numbers, you know, I'm about it. But also each of them have a solo interaction with it, and then they, for the most part, walk away unscathed. And I'm just wondering, like, why? If everybody else gets gobbled up, you know what I mean?
Maybe it's because like they're older or like
when they're kids, even though it happens, you know what I mean? Like Beverly
they're older kids than the kids that get gobbled up. Like like the little girl at the very beginning, Lori Ann, she's like 3. That's not true. She's like 4 or 5 or something like that. She's super young. Georgie is a little tiny bean boy as well. And so like these kids are like 11, they're like 12, you know what I mean? So maybe like they're, because it seems like it just feeds off of fear. Its power is fear, and its power is you like being scared of it. Because if you say like, if it's basically like Swiper, if you're like Swiper no swiping, Swiper no swiping, he's like, oh man, and he leaves. You know, if you're like, you're not Georgie because Georgie's dead, you know what I mean, then he's like, oh shit, you're right, I'm not Georgie, gotta go. Like literally he's like Swiper.
Like they believe in that, but like they also believe in each other. Like they form the little club and all that kind of stuff. So they like believe the monster is real. Like they acknowledge the situation. Like they believe in their friendship. They believe that they can kill it. But also like,
yeah, they have hope, I guess.
Which you don't have that when you're an adult. Let's be honest. Like, you ain't got that no more.
Oh no.
But also, I don't fully know much about it, but there's something about a turtle.
What?
Apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's
apparently.
I don't know what this is and I'm scared.
Okay. Did you watch the most recent? This is going to be delayed for whoever is listening, but for us, the most recent episode of What We Do in the Shadows. Did you watch it?
No.
Atlantic City?
Yeah.
Or is there another one? Yeah, I just watched it.
I think there was another one, maybe.
Oh, okay.
But I think perhaps in the Atlantic City episode, they talk about creation myths. And one of the creation myths is like the turtle that holds up the earth.
Yes.
Right. And that is kind of the antithesis, the answer to the protagonist to its antagonist in the books in this movie. And John Ritter is like a Stephen King fan, and so when he was like, oh, we're adapting it and I'm gonna be in it, he like talked to the director and was like, you guys gonna have the turtle? And they were like, are you stupid? So they didn't do the turtle. But yeah, I guess the final showdown would have involved that giant spider and also a giant turtle, which I would have liked to see. You know, I am intrigued by this concept. I don't know
so
if the world
intrigued by
started
it
in Derry,
too.
Maine, but I'm open to it.
Like, why? We've got
Listen,
to.
for Stephen King, the world ends and begins in Maine. So,
Sure, fair
Why
enough.
but
does
also
it
like,
have to go? Why does it have to be a big spider in the end? Why can't it be a fucking creepy clown that's got big teeth or something? You know what I mean? Like, why can't he just be like a demon that's in the form of a clown? Why does it have to be like an alien spider with a glow tummy? Like, why does that have to?
Because it was a clear reference to our alien episode where you got scared by a big spider.
I'm not even scared of spiders. I was just like, why? But okay, if it turns
Okay,
into
but-
some crazy fucking creation myth shit with him like fighting the tectonic plate turtle that I learned about in fucking 5th grade, like, is that what it is? Like California's on the back of a turtle and that's why there's a fault line because the turtle moves or something like that. That's stupid. I'm mad.
I
I'm
mean, this
mad.
is like a creation myth in many cultures.
Yes, that's that. The creation myth is not stupid. It's just
This
that
spider
this
turtle
turns into that.
showdown. Sure.
Like, do we have to take
Right,
this
like-
story about Derry, Maine, and take it to literally like the core of the earth? Like, why? Clowns are scary. We didn't need big spider.
Clowns are scary. Shapeshifters are scary. The clown is the same species as characters in some of his other books. Stephen King he's like Ridley Scott, like in Alien, how Ridley Scott was like, actually all of my movies took place in the same universe. That is also Stephen King with
Yes.
this character actually went to war with this character from this other book, and this character actually
I had to
is
read
the
them
same
all
species,
to understand.
not the same character. Pennywise the Clown. Some people think that Pennywise the Clown is in this other property of Stephen King's as well, going by a different name. That is not the case. It's a different character, but there's a lot of overlap in the general King cinematic universe and the King literary universe, etc.
One thing
man.
that I love that this movie does, especially like, it gives you little hints that the big bad is going to be a spider throughout the way.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you just brought that up.
What are they? I did
Well,
not
so
notice this.
remember when I know like there was 2 that I saw, there might be more.
I
but
only know
the
of
big
one.
the big one that like got me was when Bev is in the bathroom and the balloon comes up and it pops and she's seeing all this blood and she's freaking out and her dad can't see the blood and she's like, there's a big spider came up from out of the drain and must have gone back. And
Wow. And
another
it
one that
was-
I saw is when
I thought that was just her thinking on her feet real quick.
It sure
is.
was, but
mean, it
you
is,
know,
but
it
she
was
was
right there
right.
under the drain, being like, "I'm listening, bitch. I hear you don't like big spiders."
You're gonna hate what I actually am. Wait till you
But
see my
then-
tummy.
there was another one that I noticed where in like the second part where they're in the Chinese food restaurant
Oh yeah,
and the fortune cookies and Bill's has a spider leg coming out of it.
Yes, and that's the one that like stays longest, and they make a huge emphasis on that.
Mhm.
I fucking love that scene so much. That the fortune cookie thing is just so fucked up. And the poor lady who works at the restaurant is like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? You're all screaming and freaking out, and she can't see it. It's just genius. Like the blood exploding out of one, the eyeball in the other, the fucking baby bird.
yes.
Oh, I know,
And
so
apparently,
weird.
Tim Reid, I think, said that none of them knew what was in any of the fortune cookies. Like they didn't tell them ahead of time so that they could get. I have no fucking idea how that can be true and how they would have filmed such a scene. But that's the lore, at least, is that I think I read that in an article actually from Ranker.
And apparently it was all little like puppeteers under the table, like making the fortune cookies and like the stuff under it, like moved.
Practical effects. I love that
Tim
shit.
Reid said none of us were allowed to know what was going to happen in the fortune cookie scene. Like they made it be a surprise for them, which is a fascinating concept, that they could be like, open this fortune cookie, surprise baby bird.
open this fortune cookie, surprise, exploding blood balloon in your face. Like,
Right.
Another clear reference to
Terrifying.
Alien when poor little Lambert got exploding blood in her face.
you hate to see that. Okay, I was just looking through my notes, and this has nothing to do with what we were talking about.
I love a
But
transition.
I just wanted to bring up
Mhm.
a moment of writing that was stunning for me. This was after Beverly thinks that young Bill is the one who wrote her beautiful love note. Oh my God, do you guys have that written down? That is like my favorite thing. Hold on.
The poem
Ben's
is really
love
cute.
note to
I have the part that's your hair is
It.
winter fire, January embers. And then I remember this second part was like, it burns inside of me or something like that.
No, your hair is winter fire, January embers. My heart burns there too. That's a sexy poem written
That
by
is
a
a
10-year-old.
Child.
Look, here's
if
the
someone
thing.
said that to me now, it wouldn't make sense because I have brown hair, but I would be like, yes,
Yes.
thank you.
His name is like Ben Hanscom or something like that. I called him Ben Hanscom and Baby Ben Hanscom the entire movie because that is accurate to the character as portrayed on screen. That is
He's
a
amazing.
very handsome adult man, extremely sexy adult man, and a very handsome, adorable little baby child
Agreed.
would have been a catch for any of those little baby girls.
I agree. I 100% agree. I was like, casting not believable if he's supposed to be like, I don't even know. He's cute. Like he's
You're
cute.
telling
He
me
would be a
Bill's
cute
the
jock.
handsome one?
Okay, well, Bill was also cute.
Okay,
Bill
but
was like
here's the thing.
cherubic.
Yes,
He like
Baby
has
Bill
like
is
the
cute.
most precious face in the world.
I-
Not for me.
Never fucking realized that baby Richie was Seth Green.
Until this rewatch?
Yeah.
What?
I never
Dude.
realized it.
That's so wild
Dude.
to me because the
Bro.
whole time I just kept thinking that's Seth Green. And his voice in this movie at age 14 or whatever he was when he was playing a 12-year-old, the deepest it will ever get. Sounds exactly like Seth Green today.
Yeah, but okay, one, he's so good in this. He's so funny in this. He's great. Also, the actor that they had for the new movie as Richie is fucking hilarious too. What's his name?
Finn.
Yeah, Finn Wolfhard. I love him. But anyway, this Richie, like Seth Green, it makes so much sense. Like I knew that he was in this obviously because I saw it and then I've watched Buffy, but I was like, he is a little Scream King. And I didn't realize it started at such a young age. Like I just didn't realize how young he was in this. And also, this is so informative for his character on Buffy. Because his whole thing is he's fucking terrified of werewolves, and in Buffy, spoiler, he becomes one. So like, I don't know, I just was like loving that connection. I was like,
Clear reference.
This is a clear reference. They knew what they were doing, and that's how they knew they needed to cast him in Buffy because he had those chops. He had those spooky chops.
He said, I have werewolf experience.
I have werewolf experience in the bank. But okay, the reason I brought up all the little chitlins once again is that there was a scene in this movie that had one of the most cringy child flirtation scenes I've ever seen in my life. And it was like cringy just because it's like there's such kids trying to flirt with each other, and it was the lamest thing I've literally ever seen. But it's when Beverly thinks that Bill's the one who wrote that beautiful poem. And I don't know which one starts it off, but one's like, see you later, alligator. And the other one's like, after a while, crocodile. And then Bill gets onto his bicycle and starts biking away. And he says, hi ho, Silver, away.
A king. What
Beverly
a
is
movie
looking-
referencing baby.
Looking out into the distance as he bikes away, like that's the hottest man I've ever seen. That was so cool when he just screamed hi ho, Silver.
Okay, but here's the thing. You have to think, if you saw an 11-year-old boy do that in 1960 and you were a girl who was
would I
being
get to this
abused
position?
by your
Come on.
father.
Imagine this. You are in 1960.
This is a lot for
You
me
are
to imagine. I can put myself in other people's shoes, but it's hard. It's hard.
Here's the thing though. The real baby actress, Emily Perkins, I believe is her name. She did actually have a crush on Jonathan Brandis, I would guess. Jonathan Brandis, who plays young Bill. And according to her, quote, she said he's a really cute and a very nice boy. So I mean, like, sure, you know, the chemistry was there on some level, and I was like I was heartbroken for Ben immediately off the bat that she was so into Bill, because look at Ben, he's right there and he is a star.
And he wrote you a beautiful poem.
And then they want Bill to be the writer. I don't think so. Although I was wondering why she assumed it was Bill, other than she liked him, until they got to a point where he was like telling them a story and they were like, you gotta write that one down, Bill. And I was like, oh, he's a writer. That makes sense why she thought he wrote her something.
Did Ben grow up to be an architect? Is that what that was?
Yes, he had the Times magazine cover of like new architect.
Okay. Architects are hot, so extra hot.
Oh,
Bolo tie architect. Oh, whew.
He could call me beautiful anytime.
He was absolutely the winner, frankly, in terms of this movie, I think, if you ask me. He didn't get his tummy carved like he does in other adaptations. He did get his heart small broken for a while, sad, but let's be honest, nobody here has a happy romantic life.
But
so
he never loved for 40 years, okay? Because he was still hung up on
neither
her.
did Eddie, so
30 years.
I told you. Okay, true, 30 years. I said from the get-go, Eddie had the worst life. By far and away.
But I think you know, the little kids were just so cute, and their relationships, I thought, were built together pretty nicely, mostly just in the way that kids become friends, where someone is nice to you one time and then you go, do you want to be friends? And they're like, sure. And it works out. You know what I mean? Good for them. I thought the relationship building between them was pretty good. I thought,
do you remember the greatest scene of all time? The building of the dam montage. Every movie needs like a team building scene that is actually built dam. I was like,
literal team building.
Literally team building.
And and that makes sense with Ben being an architect, with them being like, how do you know it's gonna work? And he's like, I just know.
do. Yeah,
my little
foreshadowing him being an architect.
Cogs already turning.
Incredible. What a talented man. If only he had started with the bolo ties earlier in life, things would have been different.
Well, if you notice, like with the bolo ties, he talks about how his family clearly left Derry sometime after then, and they moved to El Paso, Texas, is where he graduated high school, which is probably where he picked up his bolo ties.
He said, I decided to run, and then I ran, and then everybody clapped. And
the running story was so weird. He was like, I was like attacked by a coach, and then I changed my entire life to spite him. And then the coach got so mad he punched me in the face, and then he got fired. And I was like,
I got a letter.
The thing is that this whole movie is very weird. Do you know what I mean?
So weird.
This whole movie is very strange.
That's why it's so good.
This movie is very bizarre, and I'm obsessed with it. But one thing that I am not, like, a lot of things have aged poorly about this movie, and a lot of things like make me, as a person who was born in 1990, like 3 weeks before this movie came out, there are scenes with Henry Bowers where he says the N-word, and it actually said that word on like primetime television in 1990. 3 times. That word was said, and it was like fine. They like allowed
that was
that
a hard
word
R.
like I didn't know that like it was said on television.
It sure was. And I mean, the little baby actor who played young Henry, like, didn't really want to do it, and he apologized to the little young baby who played young Mike before and after every take, was like, sorry, I didn't write it, I didn't pick this.
That's terrible.
But
That's
yeah, really
horrible.
shocking that it was made it onto. I mean, I guess that it was the 60s, but in the movie, technically,
it was the 60s in the movie, but it was
But in the 90s, they say he says it again in part 2.
Yeah, he sure does.
Oh, yeah, he does. Oh, okay. So something I just recently read Bram Stoker's Dracula, and then I watched the movie, which we have to do on the pod. Talk about bonkers. Oh my God. Anyway, there's like a portion of Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula, where there's a character who is institutionalized, who is under the influence of Dracula while he's still like institutionalized. And that is totally what Stephen King was referencing with that with Henry Bowers, because like Pennywise was controlling him from outside of his jail cell. It was so exactly like how it is in the book. And I thought that was a really cool reference to like classic horror literature. Because Bram Stoker's Dracula came out like very long time ago. It's public domain now.
Great. Also, like something that I want to talk about that I thought was like kind of funny and very interesting.
Yeah.
I think Stephen King started writing this in like 81
Uh-huh.
and finished it in like 86. Like it took him like 5 years to write it. But in that time, because you think about it, it's like a demon that's like possessing kids and stuff. It kind of has big like Freddy Krueger vibes a little bit.
Oh, for sure. There was
Yeah.
definitely some Nightmare on Elm Street vibes with
Right?
the
And so, but
I
you're
can't tell
wondering,
what's real, what's not kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but
totally.
so like, was Stephen King like influenced by Freddy Krueger, or like was this happening and he was just like also happening to be writing like a similar like instant and just like punching the air every time he watched a new, like, because we haven't covered it, but in the second Nightmare on Elm Street there's like a big shower scene as well, and there's one
and
in it
Baby
like,
Eddie
so
has his.
yeah, so it's like very,
That
so you're just like,
shower
is he
scene.
punching the air, or was he like just inspired and making clear references in the book?
The shower scene was so fucked up.
Well, it had some nice claymation.
I love that claymation floor. Like, who was it? I think Eddie at one point, when they're trying to like explain away what happened to them, he was like, maybe I just imagined it all. And I was like, Eddie, how would you imagine the whole floor opening up like that? Like,
And all the
that
showers
can't
becoming
happen.
extra long and scary.
Very spooky, very spooky. Poor guy. He didn't even want to take a shower.
That's one thing that I did notice about this movie is it's so the like only blood we see for the most part, other than when Mike gets stabbed and you see like his blood soaked clothes. But other than that, the only blood you see is the blood that's related to it. When it's like bursting out of a balloon or a fortune cookie or whatever, dripping from Stan's disembodied head.
Well,
you don't really see
Poor Stan.
the picture, like the picture of Georgie that is like bleeding.
Yeah.
That, I think that was like considered one of the more like scarier things like on like playing on television at the time, like not movies and stuff, but it was like considered one of the more like gruesome and gory, like how could this air on television scenes. And we're just looking at it now like that.
Did it play?
Yeah.
Did this play like after 10?
No, this was like a prime time,
because it's
like,
literally
cable event.
And that's what's interesting to me
It's
because
rated
it's
TV PG. It's rated TV PG.
It's ABC. It's so clearly rated TV PG. You don't see hardly anything. It's
just spooky vibes.
clear to me that it was made for kids. Or at least to be accessible to kids, which is so interesting because it was so formatively terrifying for so many children. Like I didn't see it when I was younger, but I know that this was like the blueprint for like a billion things. And like this was like Tim Curry as Pennywise was like haunting to people of roughly our age and a little older.
Yeah, that's why millennials are so fucking scared
Of
of
clowns.
clowns. Also, like, fuck those fucking people who are doing the clown shit all across the United States.
Oh, in like
It was literally-
2016.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're all copying this completely, obviously, but like that part when is it Audra or it might be Ben are like driving into Derry. It's Ben. He's driving into Derry in the taxi, and then like
The clown's just
fucking
on the side of the
Pennywise
road.
just on the side of the road, like holding all these balloons, and then the balloon like shows up in the car, and it was like go home or some shit. I
Says,
thought that
turn back now or something like
Turn
that.
back now. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting too, because you could tell that like Pennywise was kind of shook that they were all coming back because he was trying to like spook them like when they were on their own to get them to stay away, instead of just like getting them right then and there. I also don't understand. Sorry, my brain's all over the place. I don't understand how Eddie died. Was he just
He got
squeezed
pinched
to death?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. All right. Internal bleeding. I understand. And of course,
It
it's
didn't-
TV PG, so we couldn't see any blood come out of him or anything.
I
Yeah.
would have loved to hear a crunch or something. You know what I mean? I knew. Okay, I referenced this when we introduced this movie last week, or maybe when we talked about it on our mini-sode. I was very familiar with the fact that Eddie died because someone that I follow on Twitter is like a huge Reddy shipper, Richie and Eddie. Because I guess that's more of a thing in the reboot. I didn't get strong vibes in this movie
it
until
is
the
more of a
end
thing in
when
the
they're
reboot.
like, and then Richie spent the rest of his life being partners with someone who basically was Eddie. And I was like, what? But that aside, I knew that
Oh,
Eddie
yeah.
died because of all of the content that they have put onto my timeline. And so I kept being like, when does he die? Is this the moment? And then he gets squished, and I still didn't think it was the moment because he was just kind of being held up in the air.
Yeah.
And then when he's on the ground, all of a sudden he's just like, just dead. Just
He's
dead.
like, hey, I told you to stop calling me Eddie Spaghetti. And then he died. That's literally like his last words. Don't call me Eddie Spaghetti.
For the last time.
His last words were to Richie, love. I didn't know about this ship, but it makes a lot of sense now, and I'm very interested in it too. I will be looking up.
I'll send you some stuff.
after.
I have some thoughts about this ship in a later segment of the pod.
Mhm.
Okay.
But one thing about Richie that I really, really love is what did they say? Like beep beep Richie or something like that.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
when they want him
And
to
that's
shut the
literally them
fuck up.
telling him to shut the fuck up. And so I'm gonna start being like beep beep Richie, like fully expect that.
I would love to have gotten an explanation for why that means that. Apparently, it's just something that's like from the books that they didn't like fully invest time into sharing because
Explaining,
there's
yeah.
lots of story to cover.
Truly.
But I mean, what a way to say it. You know what I mean? So polite in its own way, but also very fucking rude in its own way.
Richie will keep talking until we all die if he's not beep beeped though. So someone
Right.
had to do it.
Here's the thing about Richie that bothered me though. The consistency of the characterization in the second half of the film didn't necessarily feel like it rang true to me. Like I felt like Bill got a lot more one-liners a lot of the time, both as kids and as adults, but also Stan's head. I don't know that Stan's head decapitated in the mini fridge was at all consistent with the real Stan, because obviously it was not the real Stan. But that was the funny guy in the group. You know what I mean? That was the guy throwing out zingers, dragging everybody. And I felt Richie really kind of took on a more dramatic role for the most part in the second half that also the script didn't necessarily fully support in a way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel
the
like
writing in the
also-
second half was a lot weaker.
Here's my
Yeah.
question, I guess. Obviously I don't get scared usually by our movies. Like I'll maybe have one real scare each movie. This movie is made for babies. And it didn't scare me as a 29-year-old. Which is fine. But did this movie scare you guys when you were children? Like what was it? Tell me about
Yeah.
your initial experience.
I didn't see it as a kid. I saw this in my early 20s horror renaissance. And so I didn't feel any fear. But Sydney, what was it like to be a little bean and see
I
this?
saw this as a preteen.
Mhm.
So probably like
Still pretty little bean.
early 2000s, like still like, and I remember watching it on TV. Like
Oh,
they
they
would
played
have,
it again? Oh, they must have bleeped it by
yeah,
then though.
maybe, probably. Like I just don't remember. I was 11. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they would but they would play it like back to back, where they would have like the movie marathons, and they would play it. And every time it was on, I loved watching it. The one scene that always got me. There was actually two. The opening one with Georgie always made me like super uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like the teeth, the eyes, like just the whole like Tim Curry being like, "You float too." I don't know, like it always just like made me like super creeped out. Another part that always got me was after Mike joins the club and they're like looking at his book of photos, and they're like looking at all the old photos, and then like the pages like turn and turn and turn and ends on one, and then it comes like to life, and he like is like talking to him and doing all this stuff, and like his hand reaches out. Like that always freaked me out. Like that always used to make me jump.
Creepy. Oh, I really would love to watch the new ones with you, because like you're not gonna like them the same at all, because it doesn't have any of that same like campiness, right? And also it's not practical effects, it's CGI and shit, and so that kind of takes you out of it in a little like, for a movie like this, for the story the way it is, like it just goes hand in hand with practical effects for me. That said, though, it is allowed to be gory. So, like Georgie, you know how they say that Georgie's arm gets ripped off? They said his arm was ripped right off his body. They say that in this movie. His
And they
arm
show
gets
him-
ripped off.
Yeah, at the end of the movie, in this one, they show him in his little raincoat and he has no arm in one sleeve, but that's like really as far as you get. And I would love to see. Okay, the thing about this movie that I think I liked best is that it made me really interested in potentially reading the book or in watching the reboots. Like I feel like it really was a good primer for the story, because like I said, I tried to watch the new one with some friends, just the part one, and I just couldn't get into it. And I remember some of the scenes being similar to this, but I don't remember it well enough. But now I'm like intrigued enough that I want to
similar.
Yeah, I want to go back and I want to revisit.
It made that rewatching this made me appreciate the tries that they did, but obviously it's not going to hit the same mark as this one does for you, Sid.
While we are recording this, I downloaded the Audible of it, and hoping, because I've tried reading it, I'm like, maybe I can listen to it on tape and that I can like power through it that way.
Yeah.
But also another reason why I just don't think that I will like the newer ones is I love Tim Curry so much. He's like in like he 9 minutes or something like that in the movie. Like he's not in this movie a lot, but he is the reason I keep coming and keep wanting to watch this movie. His performance in this movie is just, and it's a TV PG movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he is so creepy and so
his voice is so scary.
Right?
It's
like
so scary.
And you're just like, ooh, like to this day, his voice, his acting, him as the big four-headed clown, like it's just so good. Like it's so good. And again, I like the kids. Like the kids, like that.
The kids are great.
That part of this movie is like
really good.
so endearing, and like that script and the set and the practical effects. Like
I think you might like part one of the new ones, because it's so focused on the kids, and the kids are all fucking great actors.
I know, but I don't get great vibes from like watching the trailers of the kids.
Oh, they're so good. They're so good. I don't know. Maybe just try it. Maybe.
She's
Chelsea,
gonna
at
kidnap you.
least
She's
try
gonna
it with
tie you
me.
down, make you watch this movie.
I don't think you'll like Pennywise as much. Like Bill Skarsgård, he was really, really good in it, but he does something very different than Tim Curry does. I do like the makeup that they did for this one. One big qualm I had with this movie was the cinematography choice that was made so many times throughout the film, where like the camera would be like and like noodle around to everyone's face and go in circles to everyone's face over and over and over again. And I was just like, it happened like 6 different times. And I was like, I guess this is like a visual trope, but I've never hated anything more. And it was just so confusing. And like, I don't get motion sickness, but I was like, maybe this would give someone that. I was like, why? I guess it was supposed to be unsettling. And I was like, I guess it's working because I'm so angry right now. But it was a really, really strange choice.
Yeah, I think like Sydney said, the real strength and the real staying power of this film is like purely, other than John Ritter's sexiness, it's purely Tim Curry's, the strength of his performance, how eerie he was able to be in a very small amount of screen time. Because even there's the character of it has a lot more screen time, but when you can't see Tim Curry as the clown, essentially they had just other people playing those roles, instead of making Tim Curry like sit through hours and hours of prosthetics to be an old man or an old lady or a gas station attendant or whoever it was. But that, I think, is the most compelling thing to me about this, is he is so creepy, he is so scary, and then a lot of other things are like very silly to me, like the deadlights. I like it in the tunnel actually, when you can't see what's going on, and then when you do see what's going on, I liked it less. And the spider web, I guess, makes sense for a giant spider, you know what I mean? But like not so spooky to me. The Audra getting cut down from the spider webs, or gently lowered down by the spider webs after the evil has been defeated. And then she gets woken up by a magical hi-ho silver bike ride. You know what I mean?
Wait, okay. That part of the movie I completely forgot about. And I was like, this is so rude that Audra just becomes catatonic when she was just trying to be a nice wife. You know what I mean? Like, she's just like, she's putting her career on the line to figure out what the fuck is going on with Bill. Also, Bill, tell your fucking wife what's going on before you leave, okay? Like, he told her a little bit of stuff, but like, you need to give her the full picture. I know he couldn't remember everything, but like, that's your wife.
Have some communication.
Come on, communication is key in a relationship.
He had to go kiss Bev on the mouth. He couldn't tell her everything.
Yeah, he was like fucking kissing Bev on the mouth the whole fucking time.
Cheater.
Bev did initiate it a little the first time, I think, but then he also they had a very passionate kiss at another point. There was not just one kiss. It wasn't just a one-off. But like, I just love that he's like, I know what will solve this problem where my wife is catatonic. Like, if we go really fast on this bike down a hill. Like, it just doesn't make any sense because they didn't put enough fucking emphasis on the part with Stan and
Bill.
Him biking away from the deadlights.
Biking away from the deadlights. Like, that scene, like if they had made that seem more important, like that the bike like had this magical speed or something like that, maybe. But I was just like, this is how the film ends. This is how the film ends. It's beautiful. It was inspiring. At least it was happy ending.
Mike just goes, and everybody got a happy ending except for me, but maybe I still will because now I can leave. The end.
God, I hope good things happen to Mike after this.
I hope good things happen to Mike. I wish something good had happened to Stan, because frankly, Eddie had a pretty bad life, but also Stan had
it seemed like Stan had a great life, and then
until all the memories came rushing back, and he went,
know,
oh yeah, remember when a clown hypnotized me and I wanted to be dead? Maybe I'll do that now.
Yeah,
Also,
that shit was so fucked up. And that was just such a like, okay, it made sense. Like that's how they introduced the deadlights because it's like a call to the void, right? Um, but didn't remember that that's what happened. So I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Did they just do this just for shock value? Ugh.
okay, but Stan is where part 1 and part 2
That was my
split.
guess.
When Stan when Stan trigger warning, kills himself in the bathtub, he writes it in blood, and that's the end of the first one.
Okay, that's a really
That's
good cliffhanger.
good.
That's brilliant.
Good.
Okay. All right.
That was my
I'll
guess
allow
from
it.
earlier. I didn't say it, but I want you to know that I thought it inside of my brain.
I believe you. You're really good at guessing twists.
Thank you so
or
much.
not twists or
I
things.
love to do it. But also sometimes you just throw out enough guesses that one sticks.
Well, there's always that.
There's always that, you know?
Sometimes that's how I feel the director makes choices in films too, especially in horror. We're just gonna throw things at the wall until something sticks. But yeah, the deadlights. What would you do if your whole life you've been fighting this clown,
Mhm.
and then it turns out he's a giant fucking spider?
He's a giant
mad.
spider with train headlights. And then you just go,
tum-tum.
and then you're dead.
I'd be so mad, but can we talk about my favorite scene that I completely forgot existed? And then while it was happening, I was doing like, what the fuck? What the fuck? When they are down there and it's Henry Bowers, Belcher, and Stan, and it comes and like grabs Belch and like sucks him into the pipe, and he's like,
and you just got that like 20-yard stare because he's completely like his spine is snapped. Avi. Oh, that's
I completely forgot that part existed. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think this
poor Belcher.
This movie is just so strange, and that they're like the premise is that this is a monster that feeds off of your fear before it kills you to sustain its own life. But like a cicada, it goes into hibernation for 30 years. And cicadas are like 17 years, but the general principle stands. But so it needs to create these like weird moments of fear to like truly feed, but also it only survives if you believe in it, because if you don't believe in it, then you're not afraid. So there are all of these things that it's like puffing the inhaler works because they think that it's going to do something. And catapulting slingshotting silver earrings at it works because they think that silver would work because it appears too Richie as a werewolf, and werewolves don't like silver. And so they go, oh, then it must not like silver, and so it doesn't like silver. Like, it's very strange the way it makes sense, the way those two things like feed together, but it also leads for a movie where the rules are not necessarily consistent, because if they just believe something is going to work, it will. And if they don't believe something is going to work, then it won't. And so it's very strange in that sense.
That's why I was so angry at the end when he turns out to be a big spider. God, just saying that is just so fucking ridiculous. Oh my God. Like, when I watched this movie for the first time, I was irate at the end. I was irate. I was like, are you kidding me? Because somehow, my entire life, the fact that he's a big spider hadn't been spoiled. Or someone said that one time, and I thought they were kidding. So I was like, ha, ha, ha.
But like, joke's on me.
It's like this magical, mystical, fear-mongering demon kind of thing that is like fear personified, like luring children, all this stuff. And then they're like, yeah, no, it's a spider, honey. Like, it's a big, giant fucking spider the whole time. Oh, how does he, like, why did he choose to be a clown? Why did that spider choose to be a clown? I don't know. I just have so many questions. Stephen King, call me. I have to know.
Well, wasn't there like a whole like thing with the clown with John Wayne Gacy, and people were like, clowns were mad at Stephen King for making Pennywise like the bad, because like all the
party clowns,
all the party
all their
clowns were
work
like
dried
upset.
up.
And then Stephen King was like, no, clowns are just like creepy in general. And then in the 80s, when he was writing it, the whole like John Wayne Gacy was in jail, and it was coming out like with him, and he was doing the paintings of Pogo. What is the John Wayne
Pogo the
Gacy
clown?
No, what is
Is
it?
that not his name?
It's something with. It starts with a P.
Oh, yeah, he dressed up
It's
as Pogo the
Pogo.
clown. That was
It's
his
Pogo.
clown persona.
It's
Yes.
Pogo.
But like Pogo the clown and Pennywise. Know what
Well,
I mean? Like
IMDb
Pennywise, Pogo, like.
IMDb says on
Is
his
John with
website,
Gacy
Stephen King
up
makes
there
no
with
mention
him?
of Gacy in discussing his inspiration. So who knows if Stephen King just went, what are the scariest things to children? Clowns, spiders, balloons, eyeballs, dead birds?
Yeah. Also, like, something that I liked, even though it was weird, was the whole I love the like you'll float too tagline. Like, I love that. I think it's so creepy because you're like, what the fuck does that mean? Because you're being pulled down into the sewer, right? And it's like, oh, your corpse is probably floating down the river. That's what I thought, you know. But then in reality, it's like, no, you float into the sky, into my spider web, like
Right.
thing. So
Oh,
I
is
was
that what
like,
it means?
yeah. There's
I
a
would
lot.
prefer to not know what it means. I'm gonna
That's what it
I didn't hear
means.
that. Yeah.
That's what it means.
I would like it to be just a mysterious, spooky thing that is said in a mysterious, spooky way. I know no more. The strength of this movie is visuals alone, frankly. It's not necessarily the way that the story comes together. It's not necessarily the way that the story is told, other than the first half, I think sounds like it actually would have been as a standalone, like kind of a banger. But
Yeah. It's the same thing for the remakes, man. The first one slaps. The second one, I was like, where are all the kids at? I knew they weren't going to be in it, but Bill Hader's in the second one. And he's great.
He's Bill Hader, you know.
He's Bill Hader, and Richie is the perfect man to play Richie, honestly. So that slaps. But yeah, I mean, this movie, I'm really glad I rewatched it. So thank you, Sydney, for being born and thusly making this choice and thusly thrusting it upon us. Like, it was good. It was very perfect for Halloween time. I feel
Right?
very
It's
in
a
the mood.
good, fun, spooky movie.
Yeah, and I'd never painted my face like a clown before, but like I'm honestly like really into it, and I think I might do this more often.
I love that for you. I love that journey that you're on, Monica.
I follow this girl on TikTok, and all she does is paint her face as like clowns, but like different type of clowns. And the other day she did a sexy vampire clown, and it was like weirdly really hot. So I don't know. Something's happening.
Here's a clown fun fact for you.
Yeah.
Clowns have to trademark their clown makeup face, and nobody else can use it once you've trademarked it. And I think, but I would have to make sure that this is not wrong if you were going to trust me and bet your life on this. But I think that you submit like a little egg painted with your clown face when you trademark it.
That's
Is
true
that right?
now.
Does anybody
Even
know
if
that?
that's why would I know about that?
Clown
But that's
egg.
true now.
That's
How do you
the truth
copyright
now.
a clown face painted on an egg? Boom! That's from the Smithsonian bag, baby.
That shit is fucking insane. God, everything about clowns is wild. The big shoes, the tiny car. the
We love
makeup
everything
eggs.
about clowns now.
Is that where the idea of a beauty blender came from? Makeup on an egg? It's egg shaped. Something is there. There's something there. Someone
The
call.
connection is there.
Someone call Sephora. I don't know.
Hello, Sephora.
Hello, Sephora. Do you know, can you explain
Doesn't all come
the
back to
etymology of
Be honest.
a beauty blender? Amazing. Is there anything else we have to say about this movie before we move on to our segmentos?
I mean, there are a million insane things in this movie. You know what I mean? But I think I'm prepared to go to our segments.
Okay. So how could it be gayer I feel like this movie is pretty queer. And I definitely get like some energy from Pennywise himself.
Here's the thing. Pennywise is trans and Pennywise is non-binary. And I say this first of all just because Pennywise can change how they present themselves at will, but also because in this adaptation and in the new adaptation, Pennywise is played by a man. But one of the reasons you know that Pennywise is not the same character, it's just the same species as one of the other characters in the other Stephen King book, is because in the books, Pennywise is a girl. Pennywise is a female member of the species.
What the fuck? I need to read.
And
these
so
books.
I'm fully prepared.
Yeah, we gotta read this book.
You gotta read that book. You gotta report back because it's not.
I gotta
45 hours. I don't have it in me.
Pause the pod for 45 hours. I'll be right back. You just sit right here, and can you imagine the state I would be? Like, imagine what my clown makeup would look like 45 hours later.
Very, very sad clown makeup.
Just play it at like 1.5 speed and just speed run your way through. But yeah, to me, Pennywise is absolutely trans and non-binary, and I don't think that needs to be part of the long and storied and dangerous history of villains being LGBTQIA plus representation. I think just he can be an icon and he can be trans.
I agree. I also think that Beverly needs to hang out with some women.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beverly needs to not fuck 6 preteen boys, you know?
There was some kind of chemistry between Bev and her assistant in that brief clip, though.
Pam?
Oh, yeah.
Pam?
And she had some, not chemistry per se, but I do want to give a shout out to the sassy little girls in the beginning of the movie, who when they're walking by,
bitches.
They're like, honestly, Ronnie, some people have no class. And I was like, first of all, wow, banger. But
then they're like, yeah, some people's parents are janitors, and it's
some people's parents are janitors. What about it?
Yeah, Bev, so fucked up. Kids are so mean.
Kids are so
Christ.
But yeah, I would love to see Bev be queer. I would love the ready of it all, Richie and Eddie, to have lived up to my queer expectations in this movie. I think you could give me more of that, both when they were kids, because I feel like Eddie, frankly, really was with Bill and Stan was with Richie when they were younger. You know what I mean? That's how I would have divided it.
Yeah, no, Richie and Stan were always together.
Right. And I was like on the lookout for Eddie and Richie moments during this movie because I was waiting for it. And there are a couple, but frankly, I felt that we didn't get hardly any of it until Mike at the end was being like, and Richie's happy ending story is that he's famous and his partner looks and acts a lot like Eddie, his comedic partner, not his romantic life partner. Although who knows? But I just feel like it wasn't gay enough, actually.
Well, no. I think Eddie is in this adaptation is like incredibly queer coded, like adult Eddie, like still living with his mother, like
the perennial bachelor. Mike, frankly, too.
Well, especially like in the 90s when like you couldn't have an openly gay character like that, like on air. I think Eddie was like, because then, you know, like if they are the losers and the misfits, right? You have the gay character.
You've got a Jew? My God, I hated when
you've got the Jew. You've got your token.
Jewish representation.
Your token. I think in Stephen King, he goes, it's like the magical black person is like a Stephen King. It's a Stephen King trope. It's a trope where it's like Mike is the one, you know, is the one black person,
storyteller, the lighthouse
storyteller, with all the answers to do everything.
Like, why does Mike have to do all the fucking work and not like leave the goddamn town? Let Mike go have a beautiful life outside of this now that Pennywise is dead. Jesus
but it's something that like Stephen King is like guilty of in his writings. He does that.
Right.
Then you have like Bev, the one girl who's being abused at home.
In both
Stephen King
homes.
does not know how to write women.
You know, Richie is a ginger, so outcast right there.
No soul. So sad.
And Bill has a stutter.
Okay. Yeah. Damn. What a
Oh,
pack
and
of
then
misfits.
Ben is cute and adorable, but I guess they think
His
he's
only
bad.
flaw, he's too cute.
He's too cute.
Too
Ben
cute.
is just
He's
too
too cute. They
God.
said he must be targeted for being too cute.
Okay, in the new ones, Ben's character is like obsessed with New Kids on the Block, like obsessed because they move it up to be set. The child part is in the 80s. And I feel like that makes him a little, I like that, like drives it home a little bit more because he's like a little boy who's obsessed with New Kids on the Block, which I fully support him. But yeah, he tries to like impress Beverly by being like, "Oh yeah, I love New Kids on the Block. Have you heard this song?" And like, it's incredible.
For me
Gives him
though,
a little
I
bit
get
more backstory.
more straightforward gay vibes from Mike than I do from Eddie. From Eddie, I get like asexual, demisexual vibes with him being like, I could only ever do sex with somebody I was in love with, and I've never been in love. And I think possibly some of that is just like repressed gay sexuality. You know what I mean? Could be very straightforward, or it could be that like idea that everyone has to find love or everyone has to want to have sex, and he's like, oh, this is the reason why I don't want or have either of those things, is he's being like, it just hasn't happened to me yet, as opposed to I don't have romantic interest or I don't have sexual interest possibly. And I think that was just my takeaway, but I think, you know, obviously there's a lot of space. But again, I kind of feel like Stan is the only straighty here. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, Stan with his little bow tie and suspenders.
Little Boy Scout.
And he really loves his wife. They have a
He calls
vivacious
himself like a
sexual
sex maniac
relationship
or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Poor
Good
guy.
for him.
Poor
Love that
wife.
for him.
Poor wife though. She's
Yeah.
like they're about to fuck and then he's dead. That's just horrible.
She's just
was
coming
very
up to
jarring.
bring him a beer in the bath.
She's the perfect
Oh
wife.
my God. Wait, okay. I'm so glad we brought this up because her fucking face after she finds him, like it's a very deeply sad scene. But she's literally like making like the most bizarre grief face that I've ever seen. And I watched it with Adam, and Adam was like, you better make a better face if you ever find me dead."
It'll be a challenge, but I believe that you could live up to it.
Yeah, I'll work on it. I'll start practicing now. But okay. I mean, that's how it could be gayer.
Yeah, the answer is everyone could be gayer, but also
everyone
most
could
of
be
them
gayer,
are
but there's some
already a little
stuff.
gay.
There's some stuff happening. Where could Matthew Lillard fit into this film? He could have been, how old was he at this time?
In
was
1990, he'd
alive.
be like 20.
Wow. I can't believe he was like 30 when Scream came out. Or less than that. A
He's
little
like
less.
26.
26, either way. He looks like he's like 18 to me. Anyway, whatever. He definitely could have been just an extra walking around in the back. Just walking around. He's too old to be a kid.
He could be
So-
the orderly at the hospital that Henry Bowers gets.
Oh, I would have loved that.
Oh, that would have been good.
That's a scene when Pennywise turns into a big dog that still has a man's body
Yeah.
and is dressed as a clown.
Raised
and
a lot
then
of
eats his
questions for
face
me.
off?
Frankly, why that man would be able to see that when their whole thing is like the adults forget, like the adults don't know, the adults don't want to know, and so they don't perceive any of it. Why that guy? Why can that
I
guy
think
see?
You're kinda
Pennywise
young.
can make, if he wants you to see him, I think you will see him.
Okay.
And he just sensed that guy's afraid of dogs. And
Well-
also he was like,
well,
Cujo
that-
reference.
That, and he calls Henry Bowers dog meat.
Ooh. And I'm like, guess what, baby? You're the dog meat.
Your
now."
dog meat now.
Yeah, I feel like that'd be the perfect place for Matthew because he can't be any of the main characters because he's neither old enough nor young enough to be it. If he was just a little younger at that time, I would have loved to see him as Bowers, but I would have loved to see him as a Bowers who does not say the N-word. Because that
Right.
would just, I don't want that
Yeah.
for Matthew Lillard.
I don't think Matthew Lillard wants that for Matthew Lillard, you know?
No,
No.
I would say that he definitely doesn't want that for himself either. So I
think
feel like
if
I
we
would have loved to
took-
see him in the greaser hair. That's mainly why.
If we took adult Matthew Lillard, though, I think he could play a pretty interesting grown-up Richie. You know what I mean? Like, we know he can be funny.
Yeah,
We know he's got the chops. And also, considering the casting was not necessarily designed to pick actors who look the most like their baby counterparts as possible, I don't think he would have been out of place in that cast if you transported him through time and space. You know what I mean? I think he'd kill it as Richie, frankly.
Agreed. I agree.
Oh, yeah.
I agree. It really would have worked. Okay, so for dumb bitch though, Sydney, what do you think?
Okay. My biggest one is Bev's dad. I've got lots of beef with Bev's dad.
Fuck him.
And also Eddie's mom.
Bad.
And honestly,
lots of bad
frankly,
parenting here.
Well, and you get like Bill's parents are kind of shitty too, like in the way that they handle
it's like a disease of dairy, like makes you a bad person.
Well, they literally say that, I think, in the movie.
Yeah, no, it's like, true. It's like that old man who sees Bev like about to be like assaulted, and just turns the other cheek. Like, what? Come on.
So in this movie,
but I almost feel like that lets him off the hook then, if he's like under the disease of dairy. However, that said, it means Bev's husband is 1 billion times worse because he doesn't live in dairy and he's acting under only his own influence, and he should die. And he almost did die in this movie because in the original script, he was going to come back at the end, and they were going to face off with him or something instead. And then that didn't make the cut, and he should have come back. He should have had the Audra role where he comes back because he was supposed to come like hunt down Beverly, essentially was the concept. And it makes sense for Audra to be like, I'm concerned for my husband. Let me go see if I can help or support him or be there or whatever. But I think if they had Tom come back to be an absolute dick, I would have preferred him to just die. And then also we wouldn't have the magical bicycle scene. You know what I mean?
I would have loved for him to have been like ripped limb from limb.
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been a great ending for this.
Yeah, I would have loved to see him absolutely eviscerated by a giant spider with a glow tummy. That would have really driven it home for me. But I don't want the bike scene to not exist because it's just the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I love that it does exist. The power of cycling will bring you back to me.
Oh,
I watched
as
that.
A cyclist.
As a cyclist, I liked that. And I also was like, Adam, why don't you ever do this for me? Why don't you ever let me just sit on the
drive
bike
into
like
traffic?
A cutie? Well, okay, that part is bad. That part's bad. That part was dangerous. It's like, what if she wakes back up and then they just get hit by a car and then that's the end of the movie?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to undermine your nomination, Sydney. I do think Bev's dad sucks.
But I think Bev's husband now has to suck even worse. Also, I get so creeped out when her husband calls her little girl.
He is just an absolute nightmare of a man, and I would like him to die. And I would personally murder him myself if I had the opportunity. That said, I would also like to take some. Okay, sorry, I just spotted something in my notes, and I need to mention it. The fact that he pulls out a belt, death to this man. Death to this man. Death to this man.
He's
anyway,
like, I'm going to teach you a lesson like last time. Literally go.
No, he's
and he literally
deserved way worse than just getting bonked on the head with some night cream. Like he deserved. I
know, because he even says to her like, maybe you'll be able to leave the house in 2 days instead of 2 weeks.
No, I hate him. He's dead to me. He does not exist in this movie, and may he die. But I would like to give an anti-dumb bitch award, which I haven't done in a long time. But I would like to give an anti-dumb bitch award to Mike, who also had a shitty life and got stuck in dairy and got stuck being the lighthouse keeper, but was smart enough to realize, even as a young little thing looking through the newspaper clippings, that there was something funky going on and that there was a lot of mysterious disappearances and accidents. Oh my God, why did my brain stop?
Listen, we are bad at words and thoughts on
It
this
wasn't
podcast.
coming to me. I got it eventually. But he put the pieces together essentially even as a child. And as everyone left, he said, I got to stick around because the adults in this town don't know what the fuck is going on. Everybody forgets. And I have to be the person who stays and remembers because we are the only people who were able to put any sort of stop to it last time. And if it comes back around, which it will surely do, we need to be prepared. Like, we have that little photo book. We explicitly know that Pennywise presented himself as someone who is traveling through time and space and history, and even if it's just like waiting in the wings for his next appearance, you know what I mean? He said, I will be there through all of the 1700s, 1830s, whatever it is. He said, I'm going to keep coming back. So Mike said, all right, I will stay on guard and I will spend my whole life doing this. And I will prepare 10 years in advance on sort of a suicide mission, but also something that saved us because they got their little silver earrings back, which bolstered their moral support at least. And also, I guess, killed the spider or whatever. I just think that Mike deserves all the acclaim. He's the true anti-dumb bitch of this movie, but also, frankly, a lot of the movies we've done so far. You know what I mean? He's got a lot of common sense.
He fell on the sword.
A lot of other
and
people
he literally
don't.
got stabbed.
And he literally got stabbed. And then he's just off screen for most of the end of the movie. And then he just shows up at the end to be like, anyway.
So here's what happened.
Let me go back to being the narrator.
Okay, all right. So he's a smart bitch. Husband is the dumb bitch. And now we're on to our knives out of fives. And so, Chelsea, what did the good people think about this movie?
On IMDb, it got 6.8 out of 10. And on Rotten Tomatoes, it got 67% fresh from critics and 63% fresh from audiences. And it also won an Emmy for Outstanding Achievement in Music Composition for a miniseries or a special. So it won an Emmy for its score, and it was nominated for another Emmy, I think, for makeup design or something like that. Which feels right, but I'll tell you in a second if I was lying. And I was lying. The second Emmy, perhaps to Monica's surprise, was a nomination for Outstanding Editing for a miniseries or a special single camera production. So not cinematography exactly, but
they fucking love that zoom around.
They said, you know what? Keep it in.
Never
nominate
seen something
it for
like
an
this
Emmy
before, so we have to nominate it. Hopefully,
Sure.
I'll never see something like it again.
But I would say that is probably roughly consistent with the knives out of fives that I would give this movie. I know for Sydney, there's a lot of nostalgia factor here. Unfortunately, I just don't have that. I think if I had been able to watch the first half in its original medium and in isolation from the second half, I probably would like it a lot more. But generally speaking, for me, this movie was like a little all over the place. It didn't necessarily commit to any of the feelings enough for me to get super emotionally invested in any of the characters, which is like what I engage with stories for. Personally, none of the scares were quite scary enough for me to say like that's what I was here for instead. I did enjoy it. I will say, I think this was a great, I said earlier, like was a good primer, I think. And it really did get me invested enough that I want to see like a more adult version of this instead of the version that's TV PG. I do want to engage further. And so that to me tells me that I liked it. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't really personally give this more than 3 knives out of 5s. And that's just because I feel like a rating lower than that is not fair. based on the overall enjoyable experience that I have, but it was not like special to me really in any particular way other than John Ritter. He's exempt from anything. Any criticisms that I have, he's
very
perfect.
special to me.
I love him, and I love his bolo tie, and I love his goatee, and I just think he's great. 5 knives for him.
This movie has so much nostalgia with me. Like, I can remember like specific things. Like, one of the first times I was hanging out with my college boyfriend, I drove up to Indiana University and was like staying in his frat house for a weekend. And after a party, we like laid on a couch in the frat house and watched all 3 hours of this movie because we both were like, I fucking love this movie. And, or like, I remember like sitting and watching it on TV, like with my parents. And I remember like sitting and watching it with my best friends, like every time around Halloween. Like, it was always one of those, like, we're gonna decorate the house and have this on in the background because it was 3 hours long. And if we couldn't decorate the house by the time the movie was over,
It's time
we
to
were
give up.
never gonna finish. Yeah. Like,
Oh.
like we had to like have like the inside of the house decorated by the time. Yeah. And so I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5 for me. I love it so much. It did not age well, that I just don't like, I think. But also like I'm always gonna love it better than the remakes ones. So
that you haven't
Well,
seen yet.
yeah,
I know
that I
you will.
haven't
I know
seen
you'll love
yet.
it more. This one, those movies. Okay. Is it my turn now? I don't want to step
Yes,
on
it's
you.
your
Yeah.
turn.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool. I don't want to just like start going off. I loved this the first time I watched it. Watching it this second, maybe the third time. It couldn't have been the third time. It's so long. There's no way. This is the third time I've seen it. But I was like, okay, you got to be in the right space. And the first time you see it, you're like, absolutely, what the fuck is going on for like 90% of the time. So you're extra engaged because you're like, every moment is a new surprise. Every moment you get a hi ho silver away. I'll see you later, alligator. After a while, crocodile. An absurd reaction to your husband's death. Like, there are so many absolutely bizarre things that happen in this movie that make you love it so much. You watch it a second time, you remember some of those things, so you see it coming. It doesn't pack that same punch. But at the same time, like, this is, like you said, so influential. Like, our entire like millennial age group, whatever the fuck, is scared of clowns because of this. Like, you know, or maybe they remember John Wayne Gacy, but I was not alive for that. And so I didn't know about it, but I knew about Pennywise. I knew he was fucked up, and I knew his forehead was way too big. What's going on in that head? If his forehead's so large, very sinister, very alarming. But you know, I'm gonna give this movie like a 3.85. 3.85. Okay, I misspoke, but that's what I'm gonna say now. 3.85 knives out of 5. It just gets me all flustered, you know. Something about Tim Curry, because it definitely is a mess, but it's a beautiful mess. And aren't we all a mess deep down inside? Yes, we are. And so it's a very relatable film because of that.
Aren't we all just demonic clowns somewhere deep, deep down on the inside with large foreheads and pointy teeth?
Aren't we just clowning on the outside and a big nasty spider on the inside? Yes, we are. And so I love this movie, and I can't wait to watch the new ones again. They're not better than this. They're not, but they are different and they are really fun too. So I'm just glad this shit exists. So that's it for me. But next, okay, that's it. That's it for it.
We're done.
That's it with it. 3 hours, no, 4 hours and 45 minutes later, if you count runtime of the podcast and the amount of time it took to watch. This is our Halloween month. Did you know it's October? Did you forget? That's sad if you did, because you're obviously not doing it.
It's Spooktober here at Spooky Tuesday.
It's Spooktober. Well, guess what, bitches? Next week's Halloween. It's happening. It's happening. So we're choosing our Halloween movie, and it's a movie that we all fucking love, and I hope you've seen it before because wow, did you have any sparkle of magic in your childhood? If you didn't, it's Hocus Pocus. It's
The
Hocus
scariest
Pocus.
film yet.
The scariest
The
movie we've ever done.
spookiest of the Spooky Tuesdays.
Yeah, okay, it's not necessarily scary, but it is iconic and it does have beautiful spooky imagery and beautiful spooky makeup and beautiful spooky acting.
And Sarah
And
Jessica Parker's tits in that movie was very formative for me in my youth, and that's one of our segments. So
it's iconic.
Yeah.
Banging soundtrack, by the way. So get ready for it. This is the perfect way to ring in the trick-or-treating time of year. And watch this while you're getting your costume ready. It's perfect. If you like what you heard this week and every other week, well, why not give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser? It would be a beautiful Halloween gift for everyone involved. Consider it. And besides that, you should also follow us on social media at Spooky Tuesday on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. That's it. And at Spooky Tuesday Pod on Facebook and Tumblr. And again, we have a letterbox. We have about 3 followers now. Would you like to be the 4th? At Spooky Tuesday. Thanks for listening.
Bye, Spookies.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Height, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Captain Tamara, and our podcast art is by Mary Murphy, who you can find on Instagram at the_moon_omg.
Beep, beep, Richie. Come back anytime.